Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Karen Barton, and I'm a training manager here at National MI. And with that, I would like to have Jim kick us off. Jim, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Karen. Good morning, good afternoon, and thank you all for joining today's webinar. My name is Jim Smith. I'm the National MI account manager that covers Missouri, Kansas, and Southern Illinois. I've had the privilege of working for National MI for the past 6 years, and I've been in the industry for well over 15 years. Before we start the webinar, I just wanted to remind you all that National MI began with a promise to restore trust in the mortgage industry. And with that, we're working hard every day to keep that promise by offering the best terms of coverage and putting our customer first. In June of this year, we introduced the latest in risk-based pricing, our Rate GPS, which offers an innovative way to get very competitive rates for your borrowers. This new granular way of pricing is based on multiple factors specific to your borrower situation. You can access these rates via National MI's Access application, our easy-to-use rate finder tool on the National MI website, and most of the industry LOS engines, pricing engines. You can also access these rates via the National MI mobile app. In today's session, Kristin Messerli of Cultural Outreach will provide an in-depth overview of Gen Z, including what they value and how to reach them. This session is imperative for any mortgage professional to remain competitive today and in the years to come. Kristin Messerli is the founder, managing director of Cultural Outreach, specializing in helping companies in mortgage and real estate to better reach today's millennial and multicultural homebuyers through education and digital strategy. Kristin has spoken at over 100 conferences, including the Mortgage Bankers Association, the American Bar Association, and Harvard Business School. Kristin is also the managing editor for Mortgage Women magazine and sits on the MBA's Diversity and Inclusion Committee. She co-authored the MBA's Compliance Toolkit for Section 342 and is published in numerous publications on the topic of diversity in housing. Kristin holds over 13 years of experience working in multicultural business and social work. And with that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Kristin.
Great, thank you so much for that introduction and for having me on the webinar. I'm going to turn on my video here, and this webinar is going to be a lot of fun. I think that as we talk about Generation Z, a lot of people, one, either don't really know who they are or think that they're super young, and that's partly true. Generation Z is under the age of about 22. Millennials are about 22 to 37, depending on where you look or where you read. But Generation Z is coming up very quickly into home buying years, and they're a very influential market. So this is a market that is influencing older siblings, older friends, parents, and very much vocal on social media, as you may be aware. And they're also, it's very important for companies to develop these relationships at a younger age with any market segment, but particularly with this generation, they very much rely on personal relationships to make decisions. So that's why this topic is so relevant to this industry, and why I'm really excited to share some of the research that we've done and best practices in marketing with you guys today. As Karen mentioned, if you have any questions come up, I have a lot of content to go through, and so I'm going to stop twice throughout the presentation. I'll stop once toward the middle and then once at the end and respond to any questions, but I don't want you guys to forget anything. So type in the question and then I'll respond to those toward the end, or in the middle and the end. So as was mentioned already, my company is called Cultural Outreach, and we help businesses primarily in the housing industry with better reaching young and diverse market segments. We do a lot of market research and diversity training, millennial, multicultural training, and PR and marketing content as well. So if we can ever be a resource for you, we are available and are very happy to be partnered with National MI. We have a great relationship with National MI over the last 3 years, and are continuing to publish content to hopefully continue to improve your relationships and customer experience with millennials and Generation Z and multicultural segments. And so if you have any topics that are of particular interest or questions that come up, we would always love for you to reach out to either your sales rep, or you can reach out directly to our team as well. And that will help feed our content creation process and what kind of content we deliver to you guys. If you don't already follow National MI or Cultural Outreach on social media, and we share a lot of that content there as well. One of those pieces of content is from an interview that I did recently with James Wong, who is one of the top real estate branding experts in the industry, expert on personal branding, and his interview was really interesting. So keep an eye out for that, and you'll be getting that either by email or social media at some point soon. And you can always sign up for our newsletter as well and make sure that you are staying in touch with that content. So in this webinar, I'm going to talk about starting with framing the discussion around some of the characteristics and values of this generation that are, of course, just generalized, but tend to be the case with this generation. Also, you'll notice when we talk about any kind of generational shift or trends, these are things that start popping up a lot more among older generations as well. They just tend to be concentrated with the younger segment. And then we'll talk a little bit about consumer behavior, some of the differences between millennials and Gen Z, and lastly, some best practices in marketing and sales to this segment. So starting with general characteristics and values, what does Generation Z really care about? First of all, like I said, this is a young generation. They are the one after millennials, born in the mid-90s and upward. They're also very multicultural. This is where a lot of that conversation around multicultural and younger kind of trends really intersect. This is the first minority-majority generation in history, in American history. So I believe it's over 50%, maybe up to 55% of the generation is a person that identifies as an ethnic minority. And so they tend to be second or third generation immigrants, or not coming from an immigrant population, but again, not as much concentrated with the first generation immigrant population, and more just generally multicultural, which creates a very different kind of conversation around diversity. Third is this is a very large generation. They will account for a third of the population by 2020. So this is something that I really hope everyone takes note of, that it's not just these are not just kids. They are not just another millennial. This is a generation that really everyone needs to pay attention to and understand because of the size and influential nature of this generation. They also have large purchasing power and are going to be seeing a big portion of wealth transfer from baby boomers to millennials, and also baby boomers to Gen Z. So, and as we'll talk more about later, this generation is very entrepreneurial. So they're actually entering adulthood, often with already having a source of income. And then one of the most influential aspects of this generation is the fact that this generation really is a digital native. We would kind of say that about millennials, but I'm a millennial, and I remember when texting came about, when the internet was kind of taking root, and this generation doesn't remember any of that, or they weren't alive for that. So this is truly a digital native generation that's grown up with always having instant access to technology and information at their fingertips, and typically through a mobile device. And then another interesting trend that will be a common theme as we talk about this generation is the social justice mindedness. So this generation is a very conscious consumer, meaning that they really care about where they put their money. They care about what kind of causes a particular company aligns with, and they're very vocal about social justice issues on social media. And I would love to have a deeper conversation about this. I've done tons of research about the socially conscious consumer, and a lot of that is driven by this generation. So I'll be publishing an article on the subject soon as well. And so if anyone has questions on how we practically put this into place, please bring those up, and I'll talk more about that as we get into the sales section as well. But this generation is really driving changes in the way consumers are approaching just their purchasing decisions. They want to know that they are putting their money toward a good cause, and they will boycott companies that they feel are not aligned with their values. So what are some of the key differences between millennials and Gen Z? I think it's very easy to just kind of lump them all together, but there's actually some very distinct differences between the generations that we're seeing shift pretty quickly. One that I'm very happy to see is this generation tends to be more financially conservative. They grew up during the Great Recession, and so they learned that value of being more financially conservative at a very young age. Millennials were already entering adulthood during or right after the crisis, and so we kind of had this. Millennials have this mentality that you better just live life now because it might disappear in a second, which I think I mean, I'm a millennial, so that's probably why I feel that way a little bit more. But Generation Z is seeing millennials be irresponsible, and so they're watching that happen and thinking, well, man, we really got to save and have diverse investments, and kind of think more strategically. So that's very key as you think about your strategy with Generation Z as well, like how you approach your messaging, what you're selling. You're not going to be selling the big house with the beautiful, necessarily perfect home and big family in the suburbs. You're going to be selling more like this is a good financial investment, and this is something that you really want to drive home that value of the investment. And how you can be most frugal in that process. And then another aspect of that, the reason that Gen Z is a little bit more frugal is that they also saw millennials take out an inordinate amount of student loan debt, and they've watched them really struggle and put their loans in default and all of that. And so Generation Z is actually leaning toward not going to four-year institutions, or at least going to colleges that don't cost as much. They're losing faith kind of in that system as well as in the political system. And so they're more likely actually to look for a job right out of college. Of course, this is going to vary significantly. So I'm sure many of you when I talk about trends, people always say, well, my kid doesn't do that or whatever. So keep in mind, this varies a lot, but this is generally the trend and the mindset of Generation Z. They're also early starters. So like I said, I think we talked about this in a little bit, but they're more entrepreneurial. So a lot of them have started businesses at a really young age. Because if you think about it, I mean, I started a business at a pretty young age. I think I was 25, 26 maybe, and but I was looking things up on the internet. I realized how incredibly valuable it was to be able to Google search things, watch tons of YouTube videos, take online classes, and that made entrepreneurship so much more accessible to me. And Gen Zers have had that kind of knowledge from day one, and so they've constantly been learning new skills and realize like, oh, I can make some money doing this, and I can, they're thinking outside the box a lot of times. So they also don't want the stress of student loan debt or anything like that is going to kind of further. They want to be more financially conservative. So 72% of this generation actually says that they want to start a business someday. And yeah, like I said, many of them are already starting them in high school or even younger. This is something that is, I think, a very valuable trait of the generation that we should really encourage. It's actually a big opportunity, I think, for this industry to instill those entrepreneurial values or appeal to those values at a very young age. And think about ways that you could even set up recruitment channels in high schools where you're going out and talking about the value of Gen Zers like millennials do want that flexibility, and they want to, but they're going to be more attracted to the industry because of its entrepreneurial aspects. And so you can show them that and kind of teach them maybe entrepreneurial type classes alongside some financial literacy classes. And then you would be really honing in and zeroing in on exactly what Gen Zers are looking for. And then Gen Z does highly value individuality. That has become a sometimes annoying but really unique feature of this generation. And it's, you know, it comes with its good and its bad. I think a lot of us see a ton of social media influencers and constant selfies and find that kind of frustrating. But the good side of this is that we, as a society, have put a lot of value on individual expression and individual empowerment. And so Generation Z believes that their actions really can make a difference, that they believe in how their personal behavior impacts the larger society. And so while you see the selfie is actually telling you, I believe that my impact I can have an influence on others, and I am individually expressing myself. So the way that plays out is that you see more consumer boycotts and social media advocacy and people voting with their dollars because they believe that by choosing to work with this company, I am making a difference. And they are. I mean, they absolutely, as a group, collectively, Millennials and Gen Z have really pushed that kind of value. And you see huge movements like the Me Too movement, hashtag Me Too, and well, with a dollar kind of correlation, delete Uber. When that consumer boycott happened, everyone kind of was posting on social media about hashtag delete Uber because they conflicted with a lot of values, given that there were some sexual harassment things that came up, along with other reasons why that hashtag started trending. But over the course of a weekend, they lost 200,000 users. And so it does have an impact. And there's other areas that this feeds into that we'll talk a little bit more about. But definitely Gen Zers want that individual relationship with companies or providers versus the kind of brand association with a larger corporation that you saw with older generations. So I've said a lot so far. So we have 3 sections here. I'm going to pause real quick and see if we have any questions so far.
Thanks, Kristin. We do have a comment that they are thanking you for doing the webinar today. And they'd like to know how you suggest they connect with the Gen Z generation. Are there certain platforms as a lender they should use, and a certain way they should present the content about mortgages?
Cool. Yeah, great question. And hopefully we'll be answering all of that throughout the webinar, especially towards the end. But real quick, I'll say, 1, you need short form content. So things that are very visually attractive, and this generation tends to have a shorter attention span, so they're going to process things a lot faster. But they also want more education. They definitely want that personal relationship. So like I was talking about just a second ago with the individuality, having the most professional looking social media platform or the most professional kind of attire or office or whatever is less attractive than having it's fine, but having the personal connection with individuals is going to be the most important thing. So as Generation Z, you want to make sure authenticity is very clear throughout your branding and messaging, and that you're really empowering individuals like loan officers, or if you yourself are a loan officer or an agent, that you are you're developing the personal relationships through your networks. So being social media, being young professional organizations or your churches or wherever you are that you may be interacting with more people, making sure that you're doing a lot of that social activity. And we'll talk more about what social media channels, but it'll be mostly Instagram, and we'll have, as Karen mentioned, a whole webinar on Instagram next month as well. I'll move forward if we don't have additional questions.
Just a quick one came in for the Gen Z. Folks are used to making videos now for your generation. And for the Gen Z, do they have a preference over their self-made videos or professional looking videos?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I actually was wondering about that and have not found research that I think can point us definitely in one direction or the other. I will say that authenticity and relationship are more important than anything. So I want to say that the cell phone thing, and as long as you can hear clearly and that your background isn't too noisy, just like anyone, it is going to be effective. I would say either do that or go all in with production. I think high production value is much less expensive than it used to be. And so that's where we're headed as a company. But again, our market is not necessarily Gen Z. But I do think that's the trend, is to have really good design. And I will say design and aesthetic generally on your branding and all of that. That's very important. It tells the consumer that you are someone who is modern and up to date. And also, because Gen Z has such a short attention span, anything visually attractive is going to catch their attention better. And so, it kind of depends, I think, probably on what is a priority. If it's getting a video out, and just because you're not doing any videos, yeah, start with the cell phone stuff. If you have the opportunity to improve production value, then definitely do it.
Perfect. Thanks, Kristin.
Okay. So I'll get into talking a little bit about communication and consumer behavior specifically, and then we'll go into best practices. As it's probably no surprise, they are mobile dominant. I believe it's over, I think it's like 28% of millennials access the internet from their smartphone only. And so I imagine that number is quite a bit higher with Gen Z, though we don't have that research out. But 98% of Gen Zers own a smartphone, which is even higher than millennials. They spend on average 4 hours a day online via only their smartphone. So we are, as a society, we have all just become very dependent on our smartphones, but you definitely see that concentrated with this generation. And of course, social media use is really big. They prefer to use Instagram, like I said, also YouTube and Snapchat over Facebook and Twitter. One of the big things that you'll notice that is different there is that Instagram, YouTube, and Snapchat are all very visual. They tend to use social media more for entertainment and content consumption. So learning things and being entertained versus connecting as much. So the connection is definitely there. But it's really important that you are putting out content that is engaging and is entertaining or educational. There's that short attention span. So we're seeing something like around 8 seconds. And it's not saying that they can't listen longer than 8 seconds. We are not goldfish as a society yet, but you are seeing that this generation, when they're consuming content, they tend to stick with something for a very short period of time. So that averages out very short. And so, everyone is kind of skimming through. If you think about the way Instagram works, you're scrolling, and it's just something that is very captivating, that's going to grab your attention. That's why actually Instagram stories and Snapchat are such a great format, because it's got your whole attention. So on stories, it's the little circles at the top of your Instagram account, and you can click on someone's profile, and it'll show you a photo or video that's been going on over the last 24 hours that they've posted. It's more day-to-day life stuff. And you'll so kind of watching that allows them to fully engage. That said, you do not want to have any kind of sales-oriented kind of information, but it's a great way to have personal connection and to really help develop that relationship. They do want information quickly. So I've seen a lot of training out there, and this is something that we can help with if anyone is developing their own education content or whatever. But really think about how I see tons of text a lot of times, and the text can be fine, but put a video in there, put lots of bullet points in there, headlines, things that allow someone to skim quickly, or put it on while doing something else. And so there's zero patience for slow technology. And I apologize, my office is in downtown LA, so, and I think a siren's gonna come by, but hopefully you can hear me fine. And the idea is that that make sure that everything is fast in terms of your speed, like your website shouldn't load slowly, and you should be able to respond to things quickly. And authentic messaging, making sure that every part of your brand is authentic. So on your website, on your educational materials, in your social media profiles, and the things that you post, everything conveys this kind of personal, authentic voice. We want to see real people in ads versus models or celebrities as much. This generation wants to see more diversity, and they very much value inclusivity. So really take a look at your marketing materials. People notice this and especially with a generation where over half are ethnic minorities, you are going to, as someone who is a minority, you notice whenever there is all white people in that ad. Or like I notice all these things because it's my job, but as a woman, I definitely notice, like I go to someone's website and say, oh, there's no women at all on this website. How is this happening? Because you realize that you don't feel like you're being marketed to or understood. So that, in addition to that value for social justice, is a very big part of how this, or it's definitely going to influence their purchasing decisions. Brand loyalty. So there is brand loyalty, but it's more toward a personal, like a person, like we talked about. They get tons of exposure to ads and brands constantly through the internet. If you are an Instagram user, then you know, and probably on other platforms, I go on Instagram all the time just for entertainment also, and I scroll through, and there's just constant ads, and they're ads that are relevant to me. So that's another part of this, is that we as a society are learning more and more to filter out what we don't want to see, and our technology is learning to filter out what we don't want to see. So I'm only seeing ads that are relevant to me, and for the things that I don't want to see, like let's say a friend, they post 1 million sales photos or whatever, then I unfollow them. And so it's kind of it's an interesting dynamic that we're experiencing as a society. But again, that personal connection is the most important part of brand loyalty with this generation. They're also very influenced by influencers. Influencer marketing is where one person that has influence over a market, so like they have a lot of followers or they are very active in their community, then they can do a shout out for your company or for your brand, and you pay them to do that, or you have some kind of partnership or relationship. I talk a lot about that kind of marketing in the latest social media webinar that I did with National MI, so you can access that on their website as well. But we are always, this generation Z and millennials are very much influenced by individuals versus the corporate brand, like we talked about. YouTube vloggers, meaning video stars on YouTube, were kind of the original source of influencers. They were not celebrities. They became celebrities because they got so many views on YouTube. But now you're starting to see a shift toward Instagram TV, IGTV, and seeing that kind of rise there. And then the long-term consumer goals, Gen Z does want to own a home. So there's different research showing kind of different numbers here, and I think we'll still have to wait and see what that looks like. There is a sense of pride about ownership, and they would rather own than rent. But we're definitely seeing a shift toward like not owning cars, for instance, or thinking more about where you invest your money. So this is why it's going to be really important to think about how you educate Gen Z about the investment and the financial security around homeownership. So now I'm going to get into talking about sales messaging tips and strategies. Do you have any questions so far? I'll go ahead and pause here and see if there's anything I can respond to.
So Emily asked if you can give any specific examples of what might interest Instagram users, and then she says regarding, but that's all she put. So I'm not sure if she'd like to specify on that. And then we've got one that says he's got regarding mortgage lending. Okay, so I'll stop there and let you address that. Okay,
yeah. So there's a lot of different kinds of content, and definitely tune in for our Instagram webinar next month. But some of the content that works best is, again, that personal connection. So even doing stuff that's like you at the office with people, less posed content and more live action type things in your Instagram story. So like if something funny happens, posting about it, or you're going through an open house and you see something like a really cool designed living room, you post that. It just kind of depends on what you are about. And I'll actually talk a little bit about this in a minute about, how you decide that. But then also if you're in mortgage lending specifically, if you want to be targeted in your theme overall about financial education, I would focus in that area around educating people on the homeownership process, on what it takes to buy a home, some maybe budgeting even, including anything related to financial security and sustainability, and building your brand around that. Again, always avoiding sales language, but making it very educational. So I'll get into more details in this next section. What's the next question I can respond to?
Okay, so this one has a family vlog that they have about 7,000 subscribers to. Would you recommend creating a YouTube channel specific for educating and connecting it to the vlog, or should they focus on creating a new Instagram TV channel?
Ooh, that's a great question, and congratulations on all the followers or subscribers to your blog. I think that that's kind of up to you. There's definitely some big differences that I'll go into on the next webinar, but the YouTube is just very noisy. So there's a lot, like it's gonna suggest another video after, and there's lots going on. Also, Instagram, IGTV is very new, so you have a little bit less people on it, but it's catching on really quickly. So I mean, I probably personally would go straight to IGTV because it is newer, and I think it's a better time to get started with that. And you're going to get all the people that are, again, like kind of going after this age group. But I think it would take a little bit more analysis of who is subscribed to your blog right now to identify what works best. Either way, whatever direction you go, make sure to tie that to the blog, and of course, like really advertise it in any kind of emails that go out or on your blog, and promote it that way. But maybe in the next webinar, when we talk about really an overview of Instagram, we'll talk through IGTV as well as some of the differences between that and YouTube, and that might help you better identify what's best.
How do you feel about podcasting?
Oh, I love podcasting, and that's really great for this generation, Millennials and Gen Z. It's something that you want to kind of go all in on. If you're going to do it, make sure that you are able to advertise it and promote it in the right channels. But podcasting allows someone to, of course, listen on the go, which is a big value for particularly millennials. But yeah, the big thing there is to make sure that you are doing very high quality sound, which isn't that hard to do, but it needs to, you should set up, and like you can Google how to set up a at-home podcast or something, and there's lots of mics you can buy on Amazon that are really good and plug right into your smartphone. But you just want to make sure, of course, the audio is really good. And then you might consider sending it off to get edited. You can hire someone, if you don't already have someone, you can hire someone from Upwork, UP Work, up, like as in not down, but up. And Upwork.com, you can find people on there that are great freelancers that edit podcasts. And I have someone if you want a recommendation.
And also we've got now a lot of questions coming in on Instagram TV, so I will just leave that as a teaser for everyone, and to please join us next month on September 20th, and you can find Kristin's registration at nationalmi.com/MIU, and on our calendar for September, you'll find her listed on September 20th. Okay, Kristin, back to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So in thinking about your sales strategy with Generation Z, definitely start building the connection now. I think, again, I said this early on, that a lot of people think of Gen Z, and I'm just thinking about millennials right now. It is time to think about Gen Z, and Gen Z is influencing all the other generations anyway. But if you think about the start of any good brand, they're starting as young as possible. And with this generation being particularly mindful of their financial security, it's a very important relationship to have at a young age. And of course, some of them, I mean, I bought a home at 22, I believe, in Oklahoma. And so it depends on your market, but some of them may be in your market already looking to buy. So one, build a connection by prepping them for a healthy financial life. Again, talking about the kind of content you're creating and the ways that you're having these conversations, what you're doing to promote. Build it all around having a healthy financial life. Also consider that it's not just them that you're influencing, you're also influencing others through this generation. They are very vocal about their beliefs. They're very vocal about who they agree with. And so they're influencing their parents, their siblings, other friends and colleagues. So this is a really good generation to get on your side. And appeal to that value for investment. Appeal also to the value of financial health, because again, if you get someone in Generation Z really advocating for you and believing in your cause, which is helping people build a stable financial future, helping people build wealth, and you might even address some of the racial wealth gaps through this. Aligning yourself with those causes is very helpful to getting advocates, consumer advocates in this generation who will influence others as well. And then, of course, be ready for you when they're ready. Secondly, provide education. This is always something that I'm talking about with, I think, every webinar I do, talking about, or any training is talking about providing education. But show how you can help. Host financial literacy workshops and invest in video and online online learning. You can host financial literacy workshops through online channels like IGTV, or doing an Instagram live or Facebook live video, and you can think about and promoting it as an event, but you can also do stuff in person. So don't think that this generation or millennials are only online. We're still real people doing real things. So try to find out where the population is. This is something that may be a little bit more relevant for millennials, but a lot of younger people, and especially it depends on what market you're in. If you're in a tech-heavy area or anywhere that hires a lot of younger people, you might consider talking to them about where you can do a homebuyer education workshop or financial literacy workshop in that workplace, or nearby at a local pub or a bar where you could do a happy hour. A lot of companies are really excited about having people come in and do a lunch and learn or a happy hour. And so, again, build the relationship, make sure you don't come across too salesy, but when you build that relationship with the company, then you're able to have access to a lot of people. Even thinking about things like WeWork. WeWork is a co-working space, and a lot of cities have them now all over, and they often have lunch and learns or things that are open to their members, and they'll advertise that as well. So offer a free lunch and build a community. Maybe once you if you have a YouTube channel or a Instagram account, something that allows you to say, like, connect with me here, and then you're able to keep them really well connected long term. But that would be a great investment to have, and it would help you capture both millennials and Generation Z. And then also think about how you can invest in video. And so that's doing the personal videos. It's also considering those higher production value videos. And then, sorry, last thing about this, also think about, you could put together financial literacy or homeownership education online classes, like e-learning platforms. A lot of Gen Zers use things like Skillshare or Linda. There's lots of platforms like this that are for e-learning, and you could put together a little workshop through that, a little class course, and direct people to that. It would also be a good way to build leads and build your brand as someone who provides that education. There's lots of ideas, so hopefully you took away some of this. Then third is to strengthen your personal brand. Really evaluate every aspect of your personal brand, and your personal brand meaning your social media channels, your website, how you come across to people when you talk with them, the kinds of things that you post. Be considerate of what that looks like for your consumers, and think about how you can modernize that a little bit. So James Wong, again, did that interview with me, and that we'll be promoting through National MI coming up really soon. He talks a lot about personal branding. I believe it's actually already on our YouTube channel. You can check that out. But he said your social net worth is more valuable than your Zillow or than any other reviews you get online. So I am a huge advocate for customer reviews. That is something I constantly talk about. But when it comes to personal branding, your social net worth is even more valuable. I would say that reviews are part of that. But of course, it makes sense. If someone knows you or feels comfortable with you, they're going to be more likely to want to work with you and ignore or not even look at any reviews. So that's going to be the most valuable thing. Be authentic. Beginner level of this is kind of your authentic personal branding approach is to personalize your posts, doing more photos and video. You might post more things on your Instagram story, or and your story will go to your Facebook story as well if you wanted to. But think about ways that you're putting the person first versus the corporate side or professional side. I've talked about this a lot with millennials, but that personal versus professional line is totally blurred in this day and age. And so you're building your network and your business off of your person, like who you are as a person. So remember that, and remember that there's not going to, there's no real line. You're building these relationships. So you want to think about that with your personal branding. Secondly is on the advanced level, you could really think strategically about what your brand says, find your voice, and choose a theme to inform all of your content. So on Instagram, for instance, you might choose to go only about financial literacy or be known as this guy. There's a loan officer we work with a lot that his Instagram handle is Trust the Beard, and he has a big beard, and he has shirts everywhere that have a big beard on it. I should have worn it for this webinar, but it's a thing that he just really went in on for his theme, and everyone knows him for that. In fact, I've had people talk about him and not know his name. They just say, Trust the Beard or whatever. And so you can find your thing that really drives the point of his brand is the trust. He builds trust in the Hispanic community. And so you want to know what your thing is and what's going to tie it to that theme. Fourth is to lead with purpose, not sales. So be, again, mission-driven, cause-driven marketing is a huge thing right now. Be focused on the fact that you're helping people. Be active in your community, get involved with community partnerships. Think about ways that as an office you could go volunteer, do a relationship with Habitat for Humanity or anything community or home related, but any giving back really is good. And make sure that you build that into your brand and who you are. And then and align your brand with that cause. You are not increasing sales. You are not increasing revenue or number of units sold. You are helping families, number of families. Think about how you're approaching your messaging as an office, as an individual. And then meet them where they are. We did an interview with Jeremy Potter, who is legal counsel. And anyway, he's an expert in talking about social media compliance. And he said that, not being on social media is like not being accessible to your clients. It's like 30 years ago when everyone was required to have a 1-800 number. That was because regulators wanted you to be accessible to your consumers. And so he says, that you don't need to be on all the platforms, but make sure you can be wherever your consumers are. And I would encourage you to think about Instagram, YouTube, WhatsApp, platforms where people are messaging you and going to find you. I would avoid trying to be everything to everyone and really hone in on one and then being accessible on others. But yeah, definitely be accessible. Be checking your messaging platforms as well. So checking with in your direct messages, a lot of people will reach out to you there on Facebook Messenger or on the Messenger on Instagram, or others, depending on what you have. And what works for a Facebook ad to reach, okay, this is one thing I wanted to really focus on is an individual approach is very important for this generation, and really for everyone now. So you're going to need a different targeted ad if you're doing advertising or any kind of post. It's going to be a different kind of approach for someone that's in their 30s versus someone who's in their early 20s. And so that brings us to talking about not relying on one general marketing strategy. You got to know your audience. You got to know the values of your audience and know that it's not a one-size-fits-all. You have to, in this world, we have a lot of diversity, a lot of differences in values and expectations and purchasing preferences. And so really think strategically about what your audience what's going to resonate most with your audience. We do a lot of multicultural marketing and have realized, and recently we started getting into a lot of different types of design for different segments, because we realize a lot of people will just translate their documents and that's it, like translate it over to Spanish, for instance, or Korean, and not adjust the content of the document, or like if it's a marketing material, financial literacy document, or the design. And the design resonates differently with different people. And the actual content itself is the substance of that content is attractive with different demographics. And so, so be considerate of that, do your research, or look at the experts to help you with that. And maintain an excellent digital user experience. So of course, make sure that your mobile apps, your website is mobile responsive, everything is very clean and easy to use. I think that kind of goes without saying when we talk about digital native generation, but just to kind of review, be quick to respond to things, offer if you get a request, try to respond right away, just saying like, hey, I'm excited to chat with you, let's schedule a time, something that just says, I acknowledge you, because as a younger generation, we're really accustomed to getting that quick response back on chats, on websites, and all of that. And make sure everything's linked. So you have a modern website, it's linked to your social media platforms as well. And that when someone Googles you, they can find you and great educational resources, and they're not finding a bunch of junk on there. So just kind of make sure you're always auditing your digital footprint. So I know that was a lot, and I encourage you guys to, if this did feel like a lot, go back through, watch the presentation again, maybe come up with your strategy. I would also love to hear about your strategy and anything that is working for you or not working for you. I'm going to share a couple of examples, and then we'll have about 10 minutes for any questions that you might have. So to start, just as an example, I think everyone knows Kylie Jenner, And anyone, you'll just notice, this is an example of someone who the person is the brand. It's just an obvious example, but there's tons of influencers out there who have businesses and or businesses are using personal people, like, you know, a person to be the brand. For instance, Nike has partnered with a celebrity Olympic champion to promote their product. That's not really new, but it's definitely becoming much more prominent. So you'll see a lot of people or companies partnering with individuals. And the way this relates to you guys is that you are the brand. Whoever you are, whoever is watching this, you are your own brand. And that's why it's very important that you understand how to build your brand and what that looks like. And then Patagonia is a great example of the social justice aspect. Patagonia is actually an older company, and they're probably the most inspiring to me, but they put social impact at the core of their company. They do a lot of outdoors type clothing and outdoor tools, things for climbing, all that kind of stuff. And if you're not aware, and they are very impact oriented. But you'll notice that these kinds of brands are getting huge amount of growth and popularity among Generation Z because, again, they're putting their dollars where they want to vote, which means that they want to want these companies to be successful. I did a study recently that showed, or was reading a study that showed that 9 out of 10 consumers would switch brands. Millennial consumers would switch brands in order to go with one that aligned with a cause that they cared about. And so, and a lot, I think there's just tons of research out there showing that they'll pay more for a product that's sustainable and kind of having that social impact oriented approach. So consider how you can build that into your personal brand and your company. So just as a reminder, we kind of are just now also cleaning up our YouTube page and relaunching that. So, and we are just launching our Instagram account. So if you follow us there, we're going to be posting a lot of great content there and kind of transitioning over to using these as our primary social media platforms. So I encourage you guys to subscribe and check us out on Instagram. And then if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me directly, Kristin at culturaloutreach.com. And I'm happy to respond and answer to any questions you have now. So thank you so much.
Wonderful information, Kristin. Thank you so much. Again, someone asked about how to reach Kristin on her webinar next month in September. And you can go to nationalmi.com/MIU. And I've put that in the answer box as well. And click on our calendar for September. And you will find Kristin's registration on September 20th. So hopefully you can join us then. Also, I don't know if you can back up, Kristin, but you were talking about a couple different places, and Rita wanted to know what were the last 2 items. One was Skillshare, and she didn't catch what the other couple were that you mentioned. And also, we have one on what ratio would you recommend to do personal versus business posts?
Okay, I'm going to answer the first one. The Skillshare classes, those are like online courses, e-learning. The Skillshare is one, Udemy, UDEMY, and then another one is Lynda, Lynda.
Yeah, lynda.com. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I think they merged with LinkedIn now, right? So it'd be LinkedIn Learning.
Yeah.
I think. I'm not sure.
Forgot. Yeah. I haven't been on there for a bit, but I do remember hearing something about that in the news. So I'm sure you'll find it, though, if you look it up. So.
Yeah, if you Google LinkedIn Learning. Yep. And then the ratio.
Cool. There's also, yeah, I said Skillshare before. There's SlideShare that has a lot of interesting content as well, but that's more like slide decks of content. So what was that next question that you said, Karen? I missed that.
Yep. So the ratio, if you will, on what they would do personally versus business posts.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it really depends on you. I think a really good clean 50-50 is good. I would say, it just depends on what kind of content you're sharing, and you might notice that certain content works better than others. I will say that a lot of people don't do the professional content very well. So I think, do what it feels natural, but try to be more educational. Like if you are, and you may consider having 2 different accounts, one that's all personal and one that's that has like some business stuff in it, and then one that's just you are the educator and that's it. On Instagram specifically, and because just to kind of give you that theme of content. But I've seen loan officers do stuff where it's a mix, and their business content is like a designed graphic that maybe isn't even, I don't know, it's got to be a really good design for it to be posted as a graphic. And then, and a lot of times it's just not very personal. And so, or easy to read what was put in there. And so I would be very careful of the kinds of professional content you use, and just make sure everything is visually engaging and makes sense. But so if you're, you might watch the analytics on that and see what kind of likes you're getting for different things. And always I would try to personalize the professional content. For instance, like doing a short video of what's going on in the housing market, or maybe it's a quick update on something that's about economics, or I don't know, financial, like budgeting, for instance. You do a quick video, you're being very personal about it. You're saying like, hey, this is something that I've been learning this week, or this is something I've been hearing from clients this week. So you're kind of attaching that personal aspect to the professional content.
And we've got a couple thank yous coming in, great information. So as always, Kristin, delighted to have you join us and bring such information of value. And I'm sure it gives everyone a couple ideas to take away and to implement. And again, join us in September with Kristin back on Instagram, and think of National MI for your low down payment borrowers. And our goal is that you walked away with a couple new ideas that you can implement, and let us know next month on anything that you've run into that worked really well, and we'll see you next month. Kristin, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.